when the pandemic really took off, I received an email one morning from the prioress of the nuns in Fatima, and she said, here's our chance. She says, I really think that we should pray the rosary as an order. We should suddenly do something connected to the rosary as an order in response to the current crisis.
Back here at Closing the Social Distance, and I've got to let you know that I'm hurt. It looks like Father Clement has decided to cultivate a side career as an interviewer, one that ruthlessly excludes me. And personally, I take this as the start of a feud, which will probably be covered in all sorts of entertainment periodicals and websites. Like, are you going to start taking calls from Access Hollywood now, from Entertainment Tonight? You know, closing the social. Yes, closing the my sister, who is a proud employee of NBC and is at the cutting edge of these things. And you're going to. I'm going to talk to Access Hollywood before you get a chance. This is the beginning of the end of Closing the Social Distance. I can tell it won't end because of the lockdown, folks. It'll end because of a bitter celebrity feud. But we do have a genuine celebrity, at least in Dominican terms, who Father Clement will be interviewing, and which you'll see in just a moment. It's the one, the only Father Lawrence Liu.
Father Lawrence Liu.
For whom we bow slightly whenever his name is invoked.
From the province of England, who he studied for an STL in D.C. while we were in D.C., and in some sense is responsible for all of this. Because
Take that to prayer.
He pushed... he really pushed getting the order involved in social media and in mass communications, and started one of the early blogs of the order. And that camera right there is his, or was his.
It's ours. Yeah. So it's all of ours. So we've mentioned Father Lawrence, slight head bow, before, because he is an awesome friar who does tremendous work, not only as a photographer, a scholar of music, and as a beautiful celebrant of the Dominican Rite Mass, another feature we've had here lately. But now he has this wonderful office for the whole order of the promoter of the Holy Rosary. And so in a special way, the whole order is going to be on the Feast of St. Catherine of Siena, uniting to pray the Rosary for the end of this pandemic and for God's graces offered to us and through Our Lady's intercession. So that's what you're going to talk with him about in just a few moments. And so I hope that people are able to join all the friars and sisters, and many of them around the world, in offering this Rosary on Wednesday evening at 9 p.m.
So 9 p.m. local time. So local 9 p.m. time. Wherever you are.
Wherever you are. So without further ado, I present to you my once and former co-host, Father Clement Dickey, and the one, the only, Father Lawrence Liu.
Okay. So I'm here with Father Lawrence Liu, who is the Dominican promoter for the whole order of the Holy Rosary. Now, that sounds like a pretty big title. So what did you do to get this crazy title?
I think I made a mistake. I invited the former promoter general of the Holy Rosary to come to our Rosary Shrine in London when we were inaugurating a new Rosary garden. And I invited him to come to see the garden, to celebrate the Mass with us. He wasn't the principal celebrant, we had a bishop, but we had him come, and we just wanted him to bring the good news of what we were doing at the Rosary Shrine in London back to Rome and to the Curia and to the Master. And he did that. He was obviously very taken by what he saw and very enthused by it all. And Father Chris Eggleton basically said that he wanted a younger person. He thought a younger person than him should be promoter general of the Rosary, because the general chapter at Bien Hoa wanted the promoter general to find new methodologies, as they call it, for promoting the Rosary, and also wanted the promoter general to set up a network, sort of a virtual network, to unite the confraternities and to bring Rosary prayers together. So I suppose when they were thinking of doing things online and creating networks, they thought of someone like myself. And Father Chris must have been quite taken maybe by the enthusiasm and youthfulness that I had. And so next thing I know, the master of the order sent me a message. But in fact, I've been warned about this by my provincial, because of course the master writes to the provincial first and makes sure the provincial is happy to release the person, as it were, for extra work. And my provincial is always happy to give me extra work. So,
because you're still at the Rosary Shrine in London right now.
Yes, I'm still the Rosary Shrine in London. I'm still rector of the Rosary Shrine. I still have most of my provincial jobs, although we had a chapter about a month ago, and I managed to get rid of a few jobs.
I got the privilege of visiting the friars in London last summer, and I appreciated, there would be signs that say, ask the guest master this question. It says, guest master Lawrence Liu. Ask the sacristan this question. Sacristan, Father Lawrence Liu.
Yes, exactly. I don't have the guest master job anymore, happily. Thank you.
I did feel very well taken care of.
So yeah. Oh, I'm pleased. Well, that's how it all came about then. So the master wrote to me and asked if I'd be willing to do it. And of course, when the master asks, I was very flattered, and I said yes. And like most Dominican jobs, you spend the first, few years trying to figure out what you're supposed to do. So that's what we've been trying to figure out. What do the various officers of the Curia do? And the master has asked us to write our own job description so that we can at least give him an idea of what we think we ought to do, and we'll proceed from there. But my main role is to promote the praying of the Rosary within the order, and to help the friars and the sisters and the nuns and the lay Dominicans and the Dominican family, help them to pray the Rosary and help them to promote the Rosary. So if I can put together some resources so that if you were going to preach about the Rosary, there would be a place online that you could go to, or a resource that you could access online with, quotations and source material, historical source material, and so on. That's what I'm supposed to try and put together, I think.
And you've kind of always been at the cutting edge of what it means to be a Dominican preacher, because you kind of started a lot of the internet preaching of the word. I remember, seeing your photo work well before I entered.
I guess I wasted a lot of time online. On a serious, but I do probably use too much time online. I admit that, but at the same time, I try and use this time online to preach the gospel. It's just the way I am. I try and direct everything towards Christ, to point towards Him. Really, I want Him to increase and me to decrease. So I would rather my name isn't known, except when people steal my photographs, in which case I do want people to know that they've taken something that they don't have an automatic right to. But for me, it's more a matter of justice and of how we treat one another, rather than wanting my name as such to be there. I used to say to people, all they need to do if they're going to use the photograph is to link to where they found the photograph. They don't have to mention me by name. And that's still pretty much my position on that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think it's important that we do whatever we can, whether as a Dominican or not, but to use all our talents to point to Christ.
A lot of ministry in the church right now has been affected by the presence of the plague. And we're kind of in plague mode, like here at St. Gertrude. We started this daily YouTube chat show, in part in response to the plague and how to reach out to people. Now, the plague is also affecting the way that, some of your work as promoter of the Rosary. So what what is the promoter of the Rosary doing about the play?
Well, certainly, another friar and myself, we've been praying the Rosary every day in the shrine church, and we've been broadcasting that live through Facebook. But in another way, the pandemic has given me an opportunity. And as I say, I try and find ways. I'm an opportunist trying to find ways to preach the gospel and to do my job. And so this really was an opportunity to do something as an order connected to the Rosary, right? For us to pray the Rosary together as an order. And I was given an impetus to suggest this to the master by our nuns in Fatima. So the order is very well represented at Fatima. And I was there about 6-7 weeks ago on pilgrimage. And I dropped in to see the nuns because I have a great love for nuns, because we don't have any Dominican nuns here in England. When I say nuns, I mean, of course, our cloistered and closed sisters, as opposed to our apostolic sisters. So we don't have any Dominican nuns in this country. So I went to see the nuns in Fatima, and in fact discovered the last remaining English Dominican nun who was living there in Fatima. So I had great fun talking to Sister Mary John, who until then was just a name I'd heard about, a legendary sister, and there she was. And the nuns all spoke English, and at the end of our conversation, I mentioned asked them to pray for me and so on, and I mentioned that I would like to find ways to preach the Rosary. So if they had any ideas, they should tell me. So when the pandemic really took off, I received an email one morning from the prioress of the nuns in Fatima, and she said, "Here's our chance." She says, "I really think that we should pray the Rosary as an order. We should suddenly do something connected to the Rosary as an order in response to the current crisis." And so, frankly, I just gave it 10 minutes of thought and looked at statue of Our Lady, and I said, "Yeah, I think this is a good idea, don't you think?" And I wrote to the master and said, "I think we should do a Rosary rally." I honestly didn't think that the master would reply quite so quickly, but he replied within hours to say that this was a great idea. Yes, let's have a Rosary rally. And he says, "You just tell me what you have in mind and we'll promote it." So I decided to choose a date well in advance so that there'd be time for the brethren and the sisters and so on to prepare. I was conscious at the time that within 2 weeks we would be entering Passiontide and Holy Week, and so I knew it had to be really after Easter. So I looked into the liturgical calendar, and of course the Feast of St. Catherine of Siena is coming up on the 29th of April, this coming Wednesday, and of course it's an extremely important feast for the order. St. Catherine, a great doctor of the Church, she is a mother figure, if you like, within the order. She's well loved by the lay Dominicans, although she wasn't a lay Dominican herself, strictly speaking, but nevertheless, wasn't a nun either or a sister. She was just a rather unique individual. And she also is patron saint of Italy. And at that time, of course, Italy was the epicenter of the pandemic. So I thought, yeah, this is the perfect date to call on the intercession of St. Catherine as well on the 29th. So I'm really pleased that the Rosary will be broadcast on her feast day at 9:00 from the altar where St. Catherine of Siena's body is in Rome at Santa Maria sopra Minerva. The Rosary will also be broadcast from Bologna, where the body of our Holy Father St. Dominic is. So these are two real highlights for me, that both these places, these great Dominican shrines, have decided to not just participate privately, but also to broadcast their prayers so that others can join in these holy places.
9 p.m. Italian time would be 3 p.m. here.
So the plan is, exactly. So the plan is 9 p.m. in your local time zone. to gather as a community or as individuals. I'm thinking of lay Dominicans who might be living at home. Obviously, they can't leave their houses now to go to church, so pray at home. And religious communities coming together, individuals at home and so on, and all our friends. So you don't have to be a lay Dominican. If you love the rosary, if you're a Catholic or even non-Catholics, but you want to pray, this is a chance. You can pray the rosary at 9 o'clock in your local time zone and pray the 5 glorious mysteries. Why did I choose the glorious mysteries? Well, because it's a Wednesday, and Wednesday is what we normally pray the glorious mysteries. But of course, it works very well. Everything is arranged so beautifully by providence. Wednesday is the day we pray the glorious mysteries, but of course, we want to concentrate on the triumph of Christ over sickness, over death, over all that that ails us as human beings. Christ is triumphant. We want to proclaim the victory of Christ in Eastertide, and it just happens it's a Wednesday as well. So it all works out very well that we pray the 5 glorious mysteries. And then one of your brothers in Cincinnati, Father Benedict Kroll, heard about this. We were discussing this actually over WhatsApp, and he said to me that some of the novice brothers had said that it'd be wonderful if the Fatima prayer could be added at the end of each decade. This is the prayer that Our Lady of the Rosary gave to the children of Fatima. O my Jesus, forgive us our sins, save us from the fires of hell, lead all souls to heaven, especially those most in need of thy mercy. Mm-hmm. And I thought about this for a short while. I know that many Dominicans have resisted adding anything to the rosary. We're quite proud of the Dominican rosary and the Dominican way of praying the rosary. But at the same time, this is a approved apparition of Our Lady, and Mary is our queen, she is our mother, and she is the head of the order. She is the head of the order. And so if Mary reveals this, I think that we should respond. So on this occasion, I agreed that we will, and I've asked the Dominican family specifically to add the Fatima prayer to the end of each decade of the Rosary that at 9 o'clock on this coming Wednesday. Whether that becomes a trend, it probably already is in many parts of the order. I'm sure that some of our brothers won't understand why it's such a big deal to add it, because they've been doing it already. But I know that here in England, we tend not to say the Fatima prayer in the order, I mean. Mm-hmm. So this will be something that we're adding. And I think it will be good to acquiesce, to obey the request of our Blessed Mother. And in particular, of course, I just come back from Fatima. So I had a very deep spiritual experience in Fatima. Mm-hmm. And so I felt a real connection to the visionaries of Fatima, and felt that, yes, this is the apparition of Our Lady of the Rosary. That's what she called herself. Mm-hmm. When the children asked, well, who are you? She says, I am Our Lady of the Rosary. And as I am the promoter general of the Rosary, I felt very much that I was to be her instrument, her tool for promoting the Rosary. And so I dedicated the mission, my mission as promoter general, I dedicated that to our Blessed Mother in Fatima. Mm-hmm. And so it seemed right that the nuns at Fatima should encourage me to do this, and that another voice within the order should encourage me to say the Fatima prayer and introduce that to the order in this way. So all this is kind of coming together, and I believe that Our Lady of Fatima is inspiring all this.
Well, thank you very much for taking the time to introduce us to this, and to and for all the work in promoting the Rosary, and so we can see you in America again. Safe.
Well, please God, yeah. Otherwise, as they say. St. Thomas More said, I think it was, pray for me as I will for thee, that we may merrily meet in heaven.
I know that we are praying for you. Hope you keep praying for us. Hopefully you'll be able to join everybody in praying the Rosary on Wednesday, the Feast of St. Catherine at 9 p.m. local, and unite our intentions as an order and as people who are associated with the Dominican order and its charism. In the meantime, God bless you, and we'll talk to you soon.